a series of 3.
Recording in progress.
Okay, let's start. So welcome to the Wool Monday. We will have 3 different days. Wool Monday, our hybrid event to rethink about wool and exchange together, create some experimentations. We will discuss that now. I just propose you first to let you know about the agenda. We have really 2 different sessions. The first part is about wool ecosystem and presentation by shemakes labs and external speaker. And after we go on co-creation, where we will do some mapping and exchange around different type of wool and initiative that can happen in different territories. So some of you will be online and others are in different places. So there is people here in Geneva, there is some in Amsterdam and also in Belgium. So let's start. Let's start with an introduction to the shemakes project and the wool lab-to-lab research that we have started during the project. So just a few words about shemakes.
shemakes is an international community of partners and labs engaged in empowering women to innovate and contribute to a more sustainable textile and clothing industry. shemakes offers a series of opportunities for inspiration, skills exchange, and networking. shemakes has received funding through the Horizon 2020 program. For more information, see www.shemakes.eu.
Yeah, so shemakes is really this network that you see on the screen with many people and labs. It has been initiated in the last year to empower future female innovators of the sustainable fashion industry for inspiration, skills, and network. We have been working around different values that we want to share in different activities. We want to be equal, collaborative, welcoming difference, empowering, and inspiring. And this, we do it through different types of activity, which are learning path, innovation services, and reputation management. So learning path is really based on the Fabric Academy curricula. It's a training around at the intersection between biology, digital fabrications, and electronics. We have this cursus, which has been created some years ago, and now with the learning path, we apply to different ages. 8 to 18 with the curiosity path, and 18 to 25 for the discovery path, and we have also a path named innovation for women innovators. We do also some innovation services, and we build this on different type of events, workshop, and activity to support different collaboration with different type of stakeholders. So there is community engagement activity. We are here today to present what we are doing in the lab-to-lab research activity, which is about around wool, and we have also some business engagement activity. With that, we are building also really a network of women that inspire in a different way that traditionally in the textile and fashion industry. It's female who are making, it's female who are researching, designing. We have different type of female role model in the project. There is ambassador, guru, and advisory board, and some of them are with us today. So let's focus on wool now. We're super happy to have this opportunity to work on wool together. So the idea is really to build a collaborative lab-to-lab project and to discover, rediscover the topic of wool and how makerspace and textile labs, how we can really provide some good research on that, what can be our role. So what was the statement at the beginning is that wool has a rich and deep history. Of course, it comes from the past century, and it's still in use today. We will see many examples of that. There is various places, various culture, very different type of quality of wool according to where does it come. There is traditional techniques that face the risk of being lost, and this is super important to see that how we can not lose them, how we can avoid to burn wool. And also, of course, there is the waste wool, the post-consumer wool that is also poorly valued, like many textile waste. So the idea is really to think about local community, and with that, we want to reshape local value chain around wool, from farmer, spinner, weaver, designer, maker, waste management center, and upcycling centers. Just a quick fact about wool. This is the part of the number. What we discover is that it's Australia who is producing the most amount of wool, which is around 345 million kilo of wool every year. So it's more like 1/4 of the world wool. And maybe another number that is interesting is like a single ship provide around 4.5 kilo of wool per year. So it's quite interesting because it means that it could fit like 6 sweaters at some point. So this is some first approximation for us. What we have been doing by starting the project, it's to look at all the process of wool, what was the value chain, and where we want to act on in this all different steps and different processes. So from raising, sharing, carding, spinning, dyeing, knitting, weaving, and also how we can close the loop, how we can sort the wool, dry, shred, and card again. So after having done this analysis, we have focused our research on 3 different groups, which is also aligned with the place, design, make model that is coming from the Textile and Clothing Business Lab Association. So place, the idea is really to look at the ecosystems and how we can understand local dynamic and challenge regarding the process of wool, from ship to fabric to recycling, focusing on local, on places, territories, and see what we can do with local stakeholders there. The design group this year is focusing on natural dyes and explore local natural dyes, from botanical to mineral and fungal to food waste dyes. It's also a way to reconnect with the ecosystem to see which color we can bring to the wool, the local wool. And the third group is about make, so DIY tool making is to reappropriate the tools that we use to process wool, from spinning, weaving, carding, etc. So we have worked in parallel, and all these groups are a bit connected because it's nurturing our common research. All the research has been documented in a repository that you can have already accessed. I put the link here, but we will send you by mail and maybe on the chat now. This is really the first draft and of all the knowledge that we have been creating since 1 year. We are trying to gather all the knowledge coming from the labs. You can have an overview here of the dye part, natural dyes part. So you can see how you can dye differently, how it looks differently according to the type of resource that you use for dyeing. And also you have, it is structured as the same way than the research. So you can have a global view on the wool lab research. You can go on place, design, and make, and you have the related content to that. And this comes to today, and why we're organizing the Wool Mondays. This research was started by 3 labs, which are YAC, VAG, and REDU. And there is 4 other labs who have joined us since January, which is the Center for Circular Design, the Icelandic Textile Center, Green Fabric, and the Farm Lab. And together, today we want to expand this research and really look together how we can first exchange knowledge of what we have been doing since those months, and build new challenge, new things with you today. So this is why the Wool Mondays in May. So we have 3 events planned. So there is, today it's the wool ecosystem. On the 16th is the coloring wool about natural dyeing and eco-printing workshop. And on the 23rd, there will be the wool open source tools. So all these events, you can look at the website of shemakes with Wool Mondays. There will be also local events that are happening in parallel. So the idea is really that it's a hybrid and distributed. So we are in different places and we will experiment in different places, but sharing a common knowledge in the beginning of each session. Also, we have prepared for the participants and the labs who want to host workshop, a booklet. So to help you to get to know more about the project, to, if you want to replicate the event, to have some brief on communication. And also for each of the workshop, if you want to replicate them, some basic instruction to run them. So it's work for the 3 wool workshops that are planned in the Wool Mondays. So let's start by today. We will focus really on local ecosystem story and collective mapping. And to start with that, we will do quite an icebreaker now, quite short. I will invite you for the people online to join the Miro link here. Maybe you can share the link on the chat if possible. The idea is super simple. You look at this diagram on the left. There is some space with names and different colors. So you choose a color, you put your name, and you just reflect 5 minutes. How do you feel about wool? And you will see this matrix where you can put if you think it's pleasant, it's unpleasant. When you think about wool, is it intense? Do you have an intense relationship with wool, or you are more indifferent? So the idea is just you put yourself somewhere in the map, and we will see a bit how everyone can connect with that. So I will just click on the wool here and do mine. And maybe for the people who are here physically, we can take like just a paper and do this kind of matrix together. So we can see there is many people there now. Let's just take 2 minutes to do that. Nice. We see a lot of people in this pleasant and intense part. So I think we are all really motivated by what's happening with wool, and it's great. So this method of co-creation is named emotional networking, and it was inspired by the project Centrino and the Reinhardt Academy, who has developed that. So you can still think on that and interact on Miro. I will share again.
We lost you, Marion, the microphone.
Oh. Okay. Is it working now?
Yes.
Yes, okay, perfect. Do you see again the screen?
Yes.
Okay, so thanks a lot for doing this activity. We see really that we were in this part on the left, on the right and top, so pleasant, intense. And let's move on the presentation now. So what we have been doing, what we have been doing in this ecosystem mapping group, there is two main activity. The first is to do this mapping that you can see on the screen, which you can see there is different type of stakeholders. So we have separated the raw material supplier, the manufacturer, the designer, the shops, distributor, the cultural heritage center, and the wool waste management. So it's a bit like the life cycle of wool, different type of factor, transforming the wool from the beginning until the end and trying to loop again. So there is already some nice ecosystem that has been contributing to that. And also there is local investigation. Each lab is doing a local investigation that will be commented to you now. So what I wanted to share with you is the agenda of the time that is remaining. So 1 hour and a half. We will have a lot of presentation, short presentation by all the labs that have been involved in the shemakes and are already working on wool. For some is like for a long time, for some is super recent. It's just a new exploration. And yeah, you will see we have done 3 categories of labs. So the front runner, the discovery research, and the mature ecosystem labs. So we will start with the farm lab. So it's the Austrian context, which will be presented by Sylvia. And I will let you to take the lead now. It's okay. And Martin, okay, cool.
So hello, everybody. So shall I share my screen or how do you want to do it?
I will present, but let me just reload. Yeah. It's okay now.
Okay, great. So yeah, it's my pleasure to introduce to you a little bit the context we are in. We are located. If you can I change the, how does that work? Can you go to the next slide, or do I have control? No.
It's done.
Okay, so here we are. So we are located in the southeast of Styria, which is a province in Austria. We are very close to the Slovenian and Hungarian border. On the map, you can see this little red dot there. And on the left, you have 2 pictures giving you a kind of impression of what the landscape looks like in the area. So we have this very small kind of farmland, very diverse, with vineyards, plantations, grasslands, forests, like a funny mix of everything. Next slide, please. So in general, sheep in our area, more like grass-powered lawnmowers, they were considered and still are considered sometimes as poor people's animals, because the people in the area were used to farming pigs and cattle, and only the people who could not afford that had sheep. Wool has been used only for domestic use, so there was no quality control or anything like that. It was just for the families themselves. And in the recent years, though, there has been a bit of a hype of alpacas, because there are young farmers who are struggling to kind of taking over the farm and making a living out of it. So most of the people are having day jobs, and they were looking for alternatives for their farms. And alpacas really had a big impact. It's an amazing wool. And normally, how can I say? It's not a very common animal, let's put it that way. So it's not as easy as people were thinking that it would be. So there's a lot of trouble with it in terms of finding veterinaries that have an idea of how cameloids work. So for us, it was much better to stick with the sheep, at least for now, because they are very easy to take care of, and we have 20 years of experience there already. When Sylvia came to the farm, she was asking like, what are you doing with the wool? And we said, well, it's actually an unwanted byproduct, so to say, and there is no infrastructure for processing it. And after a little bit of research, we found, actually 15 minutes away from the farm, we found Manu Rol, and she is a woman entrepreneur that invested in relative, let's say, small-scale machinery for processing wool. So you can see all kinds of products that she's offering. So you can go there with your wool and have carded wool all the way up to spun wool, 2 threads, 3 threads, whatever you want. And this was powered by this alpaca hype, because she, as an entrepreneur, having alpacas herself, realized very quickly that actually somebody needs to also make a product out of the wool, because it would be a shame to have to discard it, and it's a very valuable raw material. Now we went there with our sheep wool, and she was actually surprised and very happy with the quality of that sheep wool. And there you can see on the pictures the results. We made different tests, also mixing our sheep wool with the alpaca. Throughout the research in the area, we discovered more entrepreneurs and especially women who are leading projects related to wool. So there is, for example, Erika's Wollwerkstatt, which is wool workshop. She's also an entrepreneur who jumped onto the alpaca wool hype, and she makes various products out of the raw material, but mainly her main business is duvets. So she has this digital stitching machine that stitches the covers of the duvets in different patterns as you like. There is the Volginus Association. It's already a, I think, 20 or 25-year-old project related to felting. It started as an interregional project with Slovenia, and is led by 5 women who are giving workshops. They have shops on their farms where they sell their products, etc. And on the second picture from the right, you can see Manu explaining her wool processing machines in her lab. So all in all, it's surprising how many people are involved in wool processing, even though it's not typical for the region. Yeah, so this is giving you a bit of an idea of where we are and what we are doing there. And now you can follow us on a little tour around the farm. Sylvia and I made a little video to give you a better impression of where we are and what we are doing. Hello, everybody.
Hello, welcome to the Farm Lab. We are gonna carry you around for a tour of the farm.
Follow us. So here we have our sheep stable. That's where we keep the sheep in the winter, because over there you have the barn with all the hay that we collect during the summer. And now we're gonna show you a little bit the habitat, the home of the sheep for the winter. Follow me. So on this field you can see old apple trees and new apple trees as well. So every 2 years we are going to we are collecting the apples and make our own juice. We are also part of a program called Natura 2000, which means we are following a certain schedule in order to increase the biodiversity of this land. That's our chick show, our mobile chicken coop, where we bring the chicken around so they can fertilize different patches, and they always have fresh grass that they can eat and move the ground and do whatever they want. And today we have 3 eggs. There you go.
We work with ceramic and with wool as well. We have an electric oven, we have another rack oven outside. These are some testings. And here we have some wool that we dyed with bark, different kind of barks, is drying. These are barks. This is the area we're using for both glazing the ceramic and working with the dyeing. And here are also some of the latest sample we did, for example with birch bark, apple bark, cherry bark, these were onion, these were different shades of indigo. And so here we have like our sample area, our iron liquor, and some other tools for it. Follow us.
So this is the first of all the workshops that we've been building. We used our local wood for making the facade. We made this used to be the neighbor's old house. We recycled these stones as well. The facade is done in a way which is traditional in Japan, called yakisoji, so it's sujiban. Also all the the workbench with a nice selection of screws, etc., whatever you need. And this was built by my father in the 80s. We just repainted it and renovated it a little bit. We have all kinds of power tools and also a Prusa 3D printer. And over here we have like a little StatCraft CNC milling machine. Yeah, a big bandsaw that is also very useful, nice to have. And yeah.
And this is an old loom that we rebuilt, restored, it all recycled. Now it's working perfectly. They were throwing it away and we just renew it all, and that we're learning how it works. And so yeah, this is the place where we spend the most of the time. We also have a nice wood oven over there for the winter work. So it's a very nice place to spend an evening working and making.
So for the shemakes project, and through the shemakes project, we were able to finally get a laser cutter, which we found second hand. It's a GS laser, 120 by 90 centimeters, very big. It has 100 watts and it works very nicely. The aim
for example, for the shemakes, what we would like to do is the wool that you saw that was dry, the carded wool, colored that was drying. We want to felt it, create a plane of it, and once it's felted, which is a traditional technique, cut out a pattern with the laser cut to produce reconfigurable garments. So these ideas for us is how to combine something traditional like the felting and natural dye with the new technologies, which is what is a big area of interest of the fund, and how to combine the knowledge of the countryside and the tradition with all the possibilities of the new technologies. Thank you for the visit. See you soon here in person. Ciao.
Super contact and super nice video. Sorry for the short cut that we had. So now we just invite you to discover the Dutch context with the back team. I let you go ahead.
Yeah, it just makes me realize. 1 second, because we are audience. No, it just, I need to switch a little bit because of course what we just saw is so completely different from our reality. We are based here with Textile Lab Amsterdam, really in the city center. So we're working in a city. And I have to say that wool, maybe as a material, is not so new in the lab to work with, but to understand actually sheep, wool production in the Netherlands, it is really new to us. So I'm sure also some of you know way more than I do. But I will briefly introduce the lab a little bit. So I'm here with Cecilia Raspanti and Beatrice Sandini. I'm Ista Boshart. And we're part of WAAG. And WAAG is a research institute for art, science and technology. And we do creative research through 5 different lenses. So materials, tools, processes, systems and culture. And want to understand how they relate. And we run projects like also the research project BioShades, which is an interdisciplinary distributed research and teaching project, let's say. And we really, that was more focusing on the alternatives for chemical dyes and the harmful processes. So we also had a distributed event like this and doing research all together with different experts, because of course together we can do much more. So that's also how we approach wool. I mean, we know what we know. And in the lab we are very specialized on natural dyes, for example. And we really look at the lab and the city as an enabling environment. So that's where slowly also the wool really started to land, not only as a material to work with, but also to understand systems, how we make together. Can we produce actually locally? Can we move really towards a regenerative and circular city and focus also less on recycling or only as really a step in between? So for us, wool is yet and again an entry point to understand things and how they can be done differently. And diving into wool, we realized there are a lot of opportunities. So we have 1 million sheep, and I hope all these numbers are correct. It's like, oh wow, and 2 million kilos of wool, and big part of it is actually just being discarded, being maybe used for stuffing in cars, or it's really incinerated, which is such a waste. And again, we found out also that it's a matter of scaling. So it's really big or very small. There are a lot of people also working more, let's say, in craft. So there we saw a lot of options. You're okay. So what we start to do now is kind of really map all these different players that are actually here in the Netherlands. So there are a lot of people doing amazing stuff. So different companies, they all actually aim for the same in different ways. Some focus more on, okay, we have this waste material. Can we do something with it? Can I maybe find spinners or connect people? Others focus more on the production of clothes. But always they have this local, circular, these values are always at the core of what they do. So that's on the next slide. You see a few of these names. There was a hint. Yeah. So, and one of them is also with us today because we thought, okay, we can dive into it and kind of reinvent the wheel, but we want to really work with the people that know. So we invited 2 guest speakers, that's more for the local part this afternoon. And with one of them, we already had a short interview. So that's designer and shepherd to be, if I say it correctly. It was nice because in the talk she also told me, I am trained as a shepherd, but that doesn't mean I am really a shepherd already, because it's really a craft. It takes 5 to 7 years. So yeah, that's also interesting to like, me coming from the city, not, fully grasping what it is to actually be a shepherd. So we have a pre-recorded video of her, and she is with us here, unfortunately. So enjoy. Sorry, I forgot. No, wait. It was just also, I don't know, we had so much fun looking at all these sheep, but this is just us starting with wool and sheep. Like, wow, there's so many breeds and they all have such a different quality of wool, or some of course are for the meat industry. But, we started to make comparisons, like who's actually more like which sheep. We had a lot of fun, and there are 15 breeds, I think, more or less. So, but for us, it's really a start. And now we go to the video.
Hi, my name is Sanne Muizer. I'm a designer and I work in the intersection between design, arts and research. In 2015, I graduated from the Design Academy in Eindhoven, where I graduated with skins based on natural fibers. And those were hemp and flax, for instance, but also I used a lot of wool. And camel wool, merino, colored, uncolored. Most of them were uncolored, so natural colors. Also the tessellaar wool. So that was a Dutch fiber, Dutch wool. And the textiles went, when I graduated, the textiles went all around the world, on several exhibitions. And people asked me to tell the story about my skins, about the project that I made back then. I noticed when I started to talk is that a lot of people who were coming to those interviews, a lot of people who come to those talks were a lot of people from the wool industry, or they were shepherds themselves, and they had so much knowledge about their country, their flock, how it works. And actually I realized that I was all over Europe, you know, and a little bit in the US. And actually I had no idea about the Dutch wool. I knew the Tesselaar, that's quite a famous breed, but for the rest I had no idea. And from child's on, I had already this big need to be in nature, and somehow I thought, now is the time. I will become a shepherd just to know more about the wool fiber. How does this work? How does it relate to nature? How, and to the landscape actually. And what is it to be a shepherd? How is it, what are you doing? And what are you doing here in the Netherlands? To be a shepherd, it's actually very old. It's very cultural heritage. And you have many different kind of breeds. You have, for every part of the Netherlands, you have your own typical breed. So it's very old, very traditional. And here in the south, where I live and where I also become trained to be a shepherd, we have the Kempische heideschaap. And back in the 80s, the Kempische heideschaap was almost gone. It's a very old breed, and industrialization came, and there was no need to have those original sheep anymore. It's the opportunities I see if we look to Dutch wool, there are several. I think the journey that I made, I will recommend to everyone, you know, like come from industry and go into, or become a shepherd, but you don't have to, or focus on flax, walk with a farmer, see how this fiber, how it grows, how it can harvest, how, you know, and see the whole rhythm. At least do it for a year so you experience all the seasons. And really do it yourself. So stand on the land and work with it, because you will notice how much labor it costs. So that's a good thing to know. And then you will revalue. So, but also get your industrial mind to it to see, so this is how it works. There are small amounts of wool, and we say this is unvaluable. Yeah, of course, if you look to merinos, maybe it's not the best micronage, you know, like it's not the best quality, but still it has value. And if you see it in the cultural heritage and how it works for a landscape and the amount of labor that's in it, you will revalue. And maybe, you know, you can make small steps to actually bring the shepherd to industry, or bring the flax to the right industry, because I think all the knowledge is there. It's sometimes a lack of connection, and also the lack of, we have to always go big scale one way. And it's a pity that sometimes, you know, industrial washing, for instance, if we talk about wool, that needs to be washed, it can only be for 3,000 kilos. That's the starting point. Well, if you have a small, you know, like the amount of sheep, you know, your flock, you don't have that much, then it's difficult to enter this. But still your wool is in that way exclusive enough, you know, although it's not the right micronage. I don't say you have to make a sweater out of it. You can use it in houses, you can use it for so many things, but it's sort of, we lost it. And I think, you know, making this connection, again, making not only the shepherd and textile industry and closed markets, but open up, have the conversation, but also really do it. Feel it with your hands. Then, yeah, you know, it's only you know, and then you can act with it. What I noticed on the journey, becoming a shepherd and being a woman myself as well, I found out, I thought a shepherd, I thought it was a male job, but I had so many female students also around me and surrounded by so many females. What I found so interesting really in the shepherd world is that you have to collaborate. You cannot do without. So there were, it was a good balance, I would say, between male and female and their strength. And I think it's all in all of us, but you could really see how it can work together. So that's really what I liked about the shepherd world. One thing though to say is that all the sheep in the field are women. I think always like, oh, those little ladies are doing the heavy job, but they're doing it, and they're doing it so well.
Thanks a lot for this super testimony. I think it's super inspiring to really see the journey. I don't know if you want to comment a little bit. Otherwise, we will go to the presentation of Jack and Anastasia. I will share the screen again for you.
Yes, thank you, Marion. We are IAC, one of the shemakes partners at the Institute of Advanced Architecture of Catalonia and Fabla Barcelona. We are also located in a city, and for us, if you go to the next slide, we have various educational programs that we are running, among them the Fabricademy Textile and Technology Academy. We have Circular Community Research Group that is doing implementing pilot projects in the district of Poblenou, where we are placed at the 22 Aroba district. And also IAC has a big other annex, which is the Valdaura Labs. It is located in a natural park of Coserola. And we have started and have some small projects around wool in the past, but actually this shemakes research made us look better into the whole production and value chain of wool. If you can go to the next slide. Our first research was to visit the National Museum of Science and Industry, and there is a permanent exhibition which is called the Textile Mill. It is a 2,200 square meters exhibition that shows all the processes and all the history of Catalonia in the textile production, and you have demonstrations, and you have also people that they are dressed as if they were 100 years ago, demonstrating and doing workshops about the process of wool. And then if you can go to the next slide, the Catalonian sheep is there are three native breeds. They are the Chisqueta, the Ripolesa, and the Aranesa, these ones. Basically what's happening is that many associations and groups are trying to keep the breeds, and they are valorizing the wool. Especially the Chisqueta case was a very interesting association that unfortunately lately we heard that the project is not moving forward. So we see also that there are challenges in the territory to keep these practices, and also there has been a great amount of work in the testimonies from farmers, craftswomen, a caravan for knowledge and transmission, and small wool production. If you go to the next slide, we identified a few projects that they are interesting to mention. One is the social cooperative of Teixidores that works since 1983. And they work with social integration of people. Also, it's giving work to unemployed people. They do handmade woven, natural woven pieces with the old way. So it's all by hand. Then the Chisquieta, which is also an association that puts together the shepherds with the artisans and the production, which is the project that I talked just before about. And also an association that brings together the sheep and the wool from the islands, Baleares Islands. There are two women entrepreneurs that they are leading this project and revalorizing the wool from the islands. If you go to the next slide, we have some projects that they were developed around wool. One of these is by Lara Campos, a student of Fabricademy Barcelona, that developed her own technique of weaving wool yarn that has been that there are seeds inside, and then growing it and growing and making this poncho. I would like to leave you with this small video of hers.
I've always wondered how it would feel to lay between earth and grass. So I wanted to create a third skin that can be grown, something that is alive and that one can develop a relationship with. To create the growing garment, there was a huge exploration. Lo que hago acá es abrir la fibra, preparando una cama para las semillas que vienen luego. Lo ideal es que no sea tanta agua para que... I started with researching different type of seeds and made different germination tests, while I developed an experimental craft technique to create the seeds yarn. Later, I designed custom looms for weaving and customized a DIY open source spinning machine. I call this project Be Grounded.
¿Ves todo lo que hay de raíces?
I was inspired by the earthing theory, which has to do with getting closer to nature and all its healing benefits. So I thought this biotechnologic garment has potential healing properties where users would be able to deal with common health issues such as stress or anxiety, but through the garments. So it's weird, yeah, but weird is nice. And as we continue exploring, we get to know that it's a win-win. If we live in a symbiotic system, taking care of other organisms and natural resources as we care for us.
Thank you. Then we have been researching in reinforcing bio-leathers, bio-based leathers that we are developing as research in materials. First, we use the wool as a reinforcement for algae-based bio-leathers. You can see the different iterations of the research. First, as with the project Black Matter, then with the European funded entrepreneur collaboration with Suzana Radnaeva for the Worth Project Partnership, where we developed the black charcoal reinforced with wool leather. Then in the pilot of Cisco, the European project, the Remixel Barrio, one of the projects was to make fruit leather made of orange peels reinforced with wool. And in the Fabricademy Barcelona this year, one of the students, she was using felting techniques and reinforcing algae-based leather that was dyed with red cabbage to create her biodegradable passion collection. And then I will leave to Petra. I will let Petra also present, one of my students. She's currently in Iceland, giving some workshops for the shemakes project.
Yes, thank you, Anastasia. Hello, everyone. My name is Petra Garayeva, and I am a fresh shemakes ambassador at the moment. And I would like to present some of my projects. I've been working with wool for 2 years. And I must say that it's from really untraditional perspective. So I mostly work with the wool fibers, which can be processed in a textile industry. So it comes from the sheep, which wool is low quality wool. And also it's probably too short to be processed for textiles. So in this case, I was trying to look for a new way how to use it. And so as we know, there are already well-known techniques, but I was looking for some new techniques that we already know. And one of them was, for example, 3D printing. So we combined wool waste with other biomaterials. In this case was actually a red clay, which is not really easy to print. So in combination with the wool waste and some gums, we created the first prototypes. And during this process, I found out that there is a lot of lanolin also used in the production of wool. So I was trying to implement it in the process of bioplastics because it's really healthy for skin. And also it can improve some waterproof properties of bioplastics. And this project was actually a base for my Fabricademy final project. And in the next slide, you will see the final project was focused on extracting keratin and basically to investigate all chemical properties of wool waste. So it's based on usage of new technologies. So the all research project is adapted on DIY tools and also green sustainable chemicals. So as an open source, everyone can go through it and apply the process for their own local waste. And from this extracting keratin, you can also create different biomaterials or biocomposites. Starting, for example, with coatings, textile coatings. Also, you can do different biofilms or biomaterials for 3D printing. And about DIY techniques, you can use it, for example, for electrospinning. And then there will be a short video, so you will see the process of extraction and also some applications.
Excuse me, if you can go to the previous slide. Yes. Thank you, Petra.
Yes, briefly.
Yes. So our current research is about making the Little Wool Factory, what we call DIY open source tools for domestic production in small scale. And as I said, we also did a workshop with robotic tufting, with the tufting gun attached to the robot in collaboration with EAC experts for the Master of Advanced Architecture students. And we also have a platform called MakeWorks, where we are mapping stakeholders of Catalonia in the crafts and Industry 4.0 domain. And also we activate cultural heritage with the Centrino project. Our key learnings and challenges are, of course, very similar to many challenges that are also in the other local contexts, which is, for example, that very few industrial mills are left in Spain. And most of the times they require like a minimum of half a ton of raw wool to start, which is somehow difficult for small scale initiatives. Also that we see that the projects depend on the people who are running them. The Chisqueta case is very present for us to learn from. And also that cultural heritage is about maintaining memories and make projects live and evolve through the motivations of people. Maybe some wool projects locally can stop, but hopefully the knowledge will be preserved with the stories of the people left behind. And also we see that there is a very big topic to tackle, which is the wool waste, or the bad quality, second quality wool, and how we can find new ways of using it through design and digital fabrication. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Anastasia, for this, and Vetra. We go now on the Discovery Labs. We will have a presentation of a bit shorter presentation, 5-10 minutes by each lab. So we start with Olivia by the Decode Lab. We'll talk about the Greek and a more specific region, I think, context. Olivia, you have the floor.
Olivia told me that if she was in a transit, so she told me that if she doesn't have connection, that I could present for her because she wrote to me exactly what she wanted to present. So the Decode Fab Lab is in Greece, but also it has a very interesting approach because it is a mobile lab, and it wants to not only be based in Athens, but also the lab that Olivia is running is going to remote and areas and villages and islands all over Greece to bring these new technologies and to activate STEAM learning in addressing young makers of 8 to 18 years old with workshops related to local production and synergy between traditional ways of making and new technologies. So they base their workshops on the local context and introducing the sustainable development goals. They are trying to discuss the importance of local production and the benefits of local economy and the social and economical ones. So she goes to these remote areas, and she had one of the workshops was took place in Epirus region of Greece during the European Wool Day, which is the 9th of April. She brought together a interdisciplinary group of artisans and livestock farmers and local organizations to try to restore the value of sheep wool and local heritage. She organized the workshops with kids, aiming to demonstrate the life cycle of wool and doing hands-on demonstration with some small looms that they were laser cut and fabricated and 3D printed parts. So she also introduces how you can create tools using digital fabrication in the remote regions of Greece. That was from her.
Hi everyone.
I'm just introducing you,
Andrea. Yeah, please.
So we have the super team of Redu who will present now the Romanian context. So Andrea and Elvis, you can present now. Thanks.
Hi everyone. I'm Andrea from Redu, Romania. Alongside me is my partner and colleague Elvis, and also two of our guests, but I'll introduce them in 1 minute. Redu is a social enterprise launched by Maibine NGO in April 2015, following a grant from the government of Norway. The aim being of generating positive change in the textile and fashion industry. Today, Redu is the national reference in the field of circular and social economy, being the first project in Romania to address in an organized and entrepreneurial way the creative reduction of textile waste. Also, besides offering concrete alternatives, the Redu team is the most active voice in raising awareness in Romania about the hidden social and environmental costs of the textile industry and fast fashion. Next slide, please. The wool and the context and the Romanian context, even though this is a very old preoccupation, with documents attesting to wool processing dating back in the 12th century, sheep farming in Romania was carried out in a very rudimentary way and without sustained state support until 1944. And for the following 6 decades, mostly in the communist regime, this led to a significant increase in number of sheep flocks. Today, Romania has over 9 million sheep. Shepherding in Romania is a part of a peasant economy that is sustainable and environmentally friendly as a whole, as well as being a cultural, social, and demographic phenomenon, whereas transhumance has led not only to the exploitation of new territories, but also to the exchange of knowledge and cultural elements between communities and to the creation of new roads and settlements. There is information and memoirs about wool processing left by foreign travelers into the Wallachian or Romanian lands who talk about women who always had a spindle in their hands and spun wool, and that weaving looms were not missing from almost every household. In the 16th century, the craft of weaving and felting knew a great development in the center of the country in Transylvania, due to the needs of the population, but also to the abundance of raw material. The wool's long journey from sheepfold to the finished product and all the processing operations were done by women. With this work, they supported their home and family. Nowadays, I think every Romanian can relate to knitting, weaving, embroidery as processes or activities that our mothers or grandmothers used to do. Also, I think every other Romanian has a childhood memory with an itchy sweater or an itchy pair of pants or socks that our mothers or grandmothers made for us. To tell you a little bit about the Romanian breeds, in the middle we have Turkana, which is 100% Romanian breed, but it's wool, it's very thick, so it's used mostly in carpets. We have semi-fine wool breeds, which is Tsigaia, representing, I think, like 30% of the sheep flock in Romania, and the black-headed. And we have fine wool breeds, Merino, which is the most perfected breed of sheep in Romania and competitive nationally and internationally with other Merino breeds. and the caracul, which is not specifically Romanian, but now it has been developed a very good breed in the northeast of the country. The caracul is mostly used for hats and accessories. After this, a bit of context, we have two guests that I told you about today, and that I'm really grateful that they accepted to be alongside us in this talk today. They are Alexandra Flora and Oana Tudose, two courageous and talented women who devote much of their time to the revalorification of wool, from the tradition and interacting with the traditional methods to fashion businesses, or the creation of artistic objects or architecture. So I'm really happy to introduce them to you. I'll give the floor to Alexandra and then to Oana.
Hi everyone, this is Alexandra Flora. Thank you, Andrea and Elvis, and for the introduction. So yes, I am originally from Iași, Romania, the same place as where Redu is coming from. Also the name of the brand, it's a slow fashion concept that I have been developing in the last couple of years, that is called Isai, and it's actually the mirrored name of my home, which is Iași. So how this started, and maybe we can go to the next slide. How this started, well, actually, it was very interesting that when it actually started, I didn't know about the problem in Romania. But eventually I did find out about the issue we have, and I see this is also something that happens in other countries in Europe. However, I don't think we have 1 million sheep. For sure, we have less and less and less with every year. Yeah, the brand Isai was actually born in between Iași, where I was born, but also Rotterdam. That is where I'm currently living. And in 2020, I've officially launched the brand. However, I've been working on the concept the year before, prior to that. And I do want it to be a slow fashion concept. So I do not look at really producing very large quantities. But I do want to help the issue that we have in Romania, which research shows that from 75% of farms, we are losing wool. Maybe not all of it can be used in fashion clothing, but this is the challenge I've taken. And where it actually started is, yeah, if you go to the next slide, that's the first picture, that's myself when I was a kid. I was always wearing knitwear, handmade by my mother, my grandmother, head to toe. It was funny that I actually had a picture with it to show you how that was happening. And funny also that in school, kids would be maybe laughing at me or bullying me. I was living in a city, and it was not so, cool to actually wear knitwear. But my mom and my grandma, they were definitely very passionate about it. They gave me this message that wool is a very good fabric, and it's very sustainable, and it's durable. So yeah, I grew up loving it. And the next picture is a picture of my mother. So I started actually together with her an Etsy shop where we were making only handmade finished products, from sweaters to dresses to socks. And yeah, I realized that that's not very sustainable if we actually want to have a business about it and also bring more wool into the fashion industry. So I was looking then locally where are places where we can work with larger quantities of wool that can also help sustain a business. So Iași is the northeast of Romania, the border with Moldova, but we had extended families in the mountains close to Brașov, where we talked to them, visited the farms, and they gave us some wool to work with. And then we started testing this. So we needed to also look for a yarn maker. So we found a yarn maker somewhere in the same region. And then we started testing it, how we can make this into an industrial yarn. And because I was living in the Netherlands, I partnered with a design studio in Amsterdam that helped me develop a design for the sweaters that could use industrial yarn. And we made a capsule collection, which is made in a factory in Portugal, using Romanian wool. And the inspiration is the inspiration of everything that we do actually with Desai is very much coming from Constantin Brucuș. He is a renowned sculptor and architect, and Endel's column is one of my favorite pieces. I'm very much obsessed with it, and you will see it mostly on all of the garments that we will make. And here in the middle are some pictures from actually the farms. The mountains are called Ciucaș, in the center of Romania, and those are part of the sheeps that we we also visited, and we are very much in close connection with the farmers. And today, you know, from a Etsy shop that we actually have an online business, and it's called thejourneysinwards.com. You can also find it on Instagram. This is the sweater that I'm actually promoting. I'm currently promoting, and yeah, it's all made with 100% merino wool, so it's a bit softer than the traditional wool that we are used to since when we were kids. But I'm still working with handmade using the traditional wool as well. So yeah, I'll give the floor to Oana.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. My name is Oana Tudose, and I'm an interior architect and a textile artist. And I will briefly present today how I started my journey with wool. So originally from Romania, I've been living in the Netherlands for 10 years, and I currently moved to Copenhagen. Back in 2017, I noticed that there was a lot of waste in wool in my region. I come from Southwest Romania, where that blue dot is on the map. Shepherds were throwing it away, burning it, usually throwing it away even in the nearby rivers. So it was even ending up as being a massive amount of garbage around. So I started this independent research of what I can do with it. So I somehow instinctively started looking at all the regional crafts that are in the area, just like wool spinning and carding and weaving and knitting and felting. So this is a first slide of a small research that was funded by ING and the Institute Creative Institute in Romania. If you can go to the next slide, please. In 2019, I was funded by a European Union startup grant for Romanians in the diaspora, and I set up the atelier in Târgu Jiu just to be closer to the material. And I started working with the local shepherds and the local community, and we don't always go through these entire processes of washing the wool if we don't get it already washed from the local shepherds and carded. We will do it inside our atelier, but we will prefer to do it on a bit smaller scale because it's a really intensive process, especially the wool washing. But we did manage to engage the local community a little bit and even transfer a few of the knowledge. I mean, in the bottom right corner, there was a woman that started helping us with spinning the wool, and she didn't even know how to spin the wool. And she is above 30, so she learned how to spin the wool, and people in the local community started sharing all this information and all the knowledge they had about dyeing with natural plants and so on. But we don't dye only with natural plants in the atelier. We also dye with acid dyes. And currently, if you go to the next slide, please. Thank you. I'm creating textile art pieces made entirely out of wool. Only wool found in Gorj region, and I really try to keep it only from that region. And I'm just exploring different techniques as I go along the way. And I also try to incorporate, if it will be in some cases, recycled textile that I found. And we try in our atelier not to buy so much material and to work with what we have around as much as possible. We also had a few exhibitions around Romania and in the Netherlands. And if you also go to the next slide, please. I'm currently developing the series, which is inspired from the forest that I grew up nearby, which is also located in Gorj, because I come from that region. So somehow the story is coming a bit of a full circle. I'm taking the wool that is being otherwise thrown away, and I'm painting stories with it, which are fragments of a forest from my childhood and from my memories. And that would be it. Thank you very much. Of course, I have a website, oneofthose.com. But thank you very much.
Yeah, and these are some of the challenges that that are in Romania, and we aim to discuss today in the second part. So thank you from our side.
Thanks a lot for sharing this testimony. It's super inspiring. Yeah, so I am here with Shannon from Onfe, and she will present the context of the Alpine context in this area of Switzerland and France.
Yes. So hello everyone. I hope you can hear me well. So Onfe, we are the Fab Lab of Geneva, and we are situated in an industrial building where we share the space with other non-profit organizations, and the space is called La MACO, La Manufacture Collaborative, and is a space where we are looking for the circular economy. The key activities that we do is digital and urban manufacturing. We work also with schools, so education. We work with individuals and also bigger groups, but also with technologies with and for society. Like I said before, we're in this space looking for circular economy, but we also, at the lab itself, we are looking for techniques for sustainability, that is open source, non-profit, and of course this knowledge of circulation. And for us, why wool? Well, there's this heritage element of understanding how something works, but we also have this project such and such like Yak with Centrino. We also have a textile sector in our lab, and it's so definitely we're going to explore that, and also the chance to innovate. So here's some explorations we did. So I had the chance myself to go to Paros last year, and I had the chance to discover a lot of different wool activities, such as the spindle. So with some help with Luce in Var, we made this with 3D printed a spindle so that you can make it yourself and start spinning wool. We have a Ognidme machine that we have Veronica, who's here today, who's exploring it. We also have some circular knitting, where we have two amazing artistic people coming with wool who are here as well. And fun enough, we have also the orange biomaterial that Anastasia talked about, that it was made, and the recipe was made in Yak, called Squeeze the Orange. And we are exploring ourselves by maybe also with Chloe, who's here, who is taking the embroidery machine, seeing how further can we bring this project. So local wool projects in the Alpine region. So they exist, and but they're very small. They're not big scale. So a lot of the time is individuals going to the mountains and having this passion and wanting to learn about wool. For example, La Filature de l'Avançon is this girl who went out to the mountains, and she is studying all these different kind of wool from these different kind of sheep, and she is doing activities and giving activities, sorry, and sharing this knowledge. But we also have this another element where, for example, we have Arpin, thank you, sorry, I couldn't see with the black bar. Arpin, which is at the bottom right, who are much more in products. They're looking for more like the better quality of the wool and sending and creating better quality products. So there's some people, some of them are looking for sharing for activities, some of them are more on the product side. So here are some more individual projects. So La Petite Laine is these two girls who wanted to create the wool from Geneva, so Geneva sheep. So, and they explored on that, and they realized that the sheep near Geneva are on the best, so they tried to mix it some from neighbors next door, like in Annecy, and they even won a prize, and it's this nice little this two girls who were wanting to create these wool, which was really interesting. Jacquot Tricot, which is my favorite out of all these stories, are the grannies that knit. So it's the little groups of grannies that knit and make things, and I just love the idea of that. And finally, we have Petra Massignac, I hope I pronounced that right. And she is an individual who has her like looms. She teaches people how to spin and makes these, and also sell some products with this, like you can maybe see in the picture, these beautiful colored pillows there. So that gives you a variety of the things. Now, French-speaking wool heritage and cluster. So this is more in the French side, not more of the Swiss, but this is really interesting where it's talking about the heritage in the Alpine region. The Tricolore pour les laines françaises is one of the oldest kind of organization where it's keeping the heritage of the wool. So it kind of creating this ecosystem, this network within all the shepherds, where it comes from. So when you buy something that's made out of wool, you know where it comes from. So it's like a wool passport in a way, and they really create this big network. And it's I really recommend you to have a check, because it's really interesting to see and trying to keep this knowledge of wool and the techniques and how it's done, so it's not lost. And then you have the Scopa Ardelaine, which is more similar than the other ones that we've seen before, which is a sort of museums with the history of wool working. So they have an amazing museum in the south of France, which I also, it's not Alpine, but we're in France in a way. But it's I wanted to put that in there because it's they have this great museum where they do tours, they show you how it is all done, and there's also workshop activities that you can do. Thirdly, it is not there, but I would recommend as well. This is more in the Swiss German side, called Ballenberg, which is a place, is a village where all the heritage of old houses from Switzerland, all around Switzerland, that is deconstructed and reconstructed there. And they do have activities, and they show how to spin with old looms, and it's all from the time. So it's really fun. It's like a great place to visit as well. Finally, challenges. We were looking at some of the challenges. I guess this is really like, there's so much more research to do within this. So like, I will let you, well, together do a sum up. Maybe it's like, yeah, so now we know that these places, and maybe not big, or these small areas of like these small initiatives exist. How do we connect them all, and how we can make this bigger network? And also, because as on Fair, we're really into circular economy, how can we bring that more? And yeah, and also lastly, all stakeholders are worried about loss of knowledge and activities. Yeah, so how do we not lose this knowledge and create more fuss about that? I hope that all made sense. Thank you very much, and good luck for the next people.
Thanks, Shannon. So Valentine, are you with us? I will let you present the Belgian context.
Yes, Amelia. You hear me?
Yes, it's good.
Okay, great.
Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, we are in green fabric. And we can go to the next slide. Okay, so green fabric, we just moved in new places in Brussels. It's an old chocolate factory. And now we are running a textile fab lab. We are doing some workshops, and we also have a co-working space with different creators in the textile, but also ceramic, jewelry, and everything. we really want to work on wool because it's a local resources, and we also have like some knitting machines and knit experts in our co-working space. And we were very interested with the wool properties. So you can go to the next slide. Mario? Yeah, thanks. So in Belgium, there was a place like in the beginning of the century, like previous slide, please. There was in Verviers a lot of wool industry, but they all disappeared. So there is a museum in Verviers about the textile industry. We also have like a local ship's bread in Belgium. You have the list there. Yeah, go ahead. Okay, next slide. Yeah, it's just a few wool projects in Belgium that we wanted to show, but as you saw at the beginning in the maps, ecosystem maps, there's a lot of projects in Belgium, so that's very nice. We have like different type of projects. Some people who are working about natural dyes and the story and everything. So we wanted to talk about Nuance de Plante with a Brussels-based association working on natural dye. We also have like local brand as Blackwool. It's a small brand who is making everything by hand and everything with Brussels wool. And she's like dyeing the wool, weaving the wool, spinning it, and she's making like accessories with it. We also have like Herbalana, who's doing weaving and natural dyeing in Belgium like for a long time now. And then we have the La Filature du Hibou, which is a mini mill, so it's like a micro factory of wool. And then this weekend we hold a 2 days event where we have like workshops around wool, and then we have talks with some people. You can go to the next slide. So it's like it ended yesterday, so we cannot process everything, but I try to make like some small resume of the weekend. So as I say, La Filature du Hibou is a mini mill, and she came yesterday and she presents how she works, and I think it's a great answer to local wool, for using local wool, because it's like small factories, and she's starting at 5 kilos of wool. So everyone who has like ships in their garden, or like farmers or anyone, can bring the wool that they are instead of throwing them away, and just like have their own yarn. And she said that since she's in Belgium, since she started the project, she really have a lot of work, like it's a really a need. So I really think that's interesting. We also had a presentation about the industrial production in Italy by a person who's coming to live in Belgium, and she said that when you are working with the industrial production, they are not able to use local wool because all of the difference in the wool, because the industrial production is so standardized. So that's why the local mini mill or the mini wool factory is a really good answer. We also talked about natural dye and vegetal color, which is very nice because it's all natural, but it cannot be the answer to all the dye that we need because it takes too much soil to grow the plants. So yeah, there was a discussion about that also. And we also talked about using local wool means to change our clothing habits because we are used to use merino wool, which is super soft and not itchy or anything. And then if we are using local wool, they are different properties. It's more rustic, and then we have to be used to it and to change a little the habits. So yeah, it's a very quick overview of what we talked during 2 days. Thank you.
Thanks, Valentine. It seems to be super dense, and we saw some picture also. It's really, this event was really announcing also all what we will explore during those weeks with the with this Wool Mondays. So we have our presentations. So now it's more the mature ecosystem, so that we will present. So the first one is the Icelandic wool by the Icelandic Textile Center. Margaret, are you with us?
Hi, I'm sorry, something happened over here.
Oh.
The fire alarm on.
Okay. Are you okay? Do you think you want to go next?
And maybe we can present first the other until yeah.
Okay,
so Tessa.
I'm here.
I'm coming. Let's go.
Perfect. So hi everyone. I think I know everyone here, but my name is Tessa Morodar. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Lotto Zero Textile Laboratories in Prato, Italy. We can jump to the next slide because I don't remember them. I'm sorry, I'm a little sick today. So if I sound out of it, it's because I'm a little sick. So yeah, we're based out of Prato, Italy, which I will tell you about a little bit more later. We are obviously a creative hub. We have a textile laboratory, a co-working, an exhibition space, an educational space. And then we also work as a textile consulting studio. And our main values are obviously sustainability, achieved mainly through quality, open source, and a non-profit mentality. We are obviously a non-profit. Why wool? Well, I said, why not? And sometimes I think we are crazy. Why are we doing this? It is hard. It is unsatisfactory. It gives medium results, mostly no results. And sometimes I really regret starting our trajectory with wool in the year 2017, but now we're on it and we can't abandon it for now. So next page, please. I think many of you know Prato. It's a city mainly known for its huge active textile district. There's still about 8,000 companies working in the fashion and textile business. It has been for over 100 years working on industrially recycling post-consumer waste wool, well, also pre-consumer waste wool, but I think the most impressive part is the post-consumer part, and that's why the interest in the local wool has waned a lot ever since World War II. World War II brought a huge quantity of post-consumer waste to Europe through the Marshall Plan from the United States, and the recycling industry really grew in the 50s and 60s by using all this amazing products, secondhand products coming from the United States. And the sheep that were being used in Italy the quality could not match up to the quality of the recycled wool, and so it was stopped using it. But as you might have heard, Italy is also a very food obsessed country, and so sheep are obviously bred primarily for their milk, for their pecorino cheese milk, which I'm pretty sure all of you know. There's 7,000 million sheeps, 7,000 million, I'm sorry, headache, 7 million sheeps currently bred in Italy that produce about 11, I don't want to get it wrong, 11,000 tons of discarded wool per year. So what was happening before with this wool is it was mainly, well, before World War II, it was used also for clothes, but mainly in the 50s and 60s, it was used for mattresses and making couches and making interiors for furniture. So the inside part, inside the mattresses. But then obviously when newer technologies were invented, nobody wanted to have wool mattresses anymore. And this, all this amazing wool just became a waste from one day to the next almost. So when we started working with the local wool, which we started working with three types of local wool. There's Sardinian wool that is used for pecorino, the Macese wool, which is a black wool, and a northern kind of wool known as the Tingola wool, which grows not so much in the Prato area, but in the Alps, and therefore is much finer because, as you know, sheep that are at colder temperatures have finer wool. Well, we discovered a huge amount of problems, obviously. So maybe as you can see in this first picture, the wool was not being separated. The colors were not being separated. A lot of the breeders, the farmers, painted on the sheep with spray paint colors. So it was really hard to get these colors out, which obviously, I mean, could be interesting to keep the colors in, but let's say usually you don't want to have colors inside your white or black wool. So this was a problem. The shearing was done completely wrong, the much too short fibers were cut off. Well, it was a mess. And it still is mostly a mess. I mean, I'm not saying that this is now resolved. It's still total disaster, but it's getting better, I guess. So one part of our job was also to educate farmers on how to do the shearing so the wool can actually be used. Now you're going to ask me, why do you even care about using this wool? Well, currently this wool in Italy, but actually in all of Europe, but I don't think a lot of other countries do it this way. When you dispose of it, you have to dispose of it as if it were a toxic waste. So you need to hire a special truck to come get it at your farm and bring it away, and it then gets disposed of industrially. This obviously is a cost for all breeders, and as usually farmers in Italy, they have 200-300 sheep. It's a huge cost for them. So how do they go around? Not always, but many times, sadly, by either burning the wool or burying it into the ground. So obviously we want to try to see what we can do with this wool in order to stop this phenomenon. Thank you. You can go to the next slide. So what we decided to do is to look at the wool a little better. We decided to weave it because we spin it, because we figured, you know, once we spin it, we can understand what we could possibly be doing with this wool that has no use. So we spun it, and we realized we spun it in a varieties of ways, and we realized a couple of things. Well, first of all, that almost all percentage of this wool was above 30 micron. That means that it, to most, like for all studies that have been done to most human people, 30 micron, it will be consistency that will irritate their skin. So it cannot be used for clothes. It cannot be used for textiles that come in contact with the human skin, but not even like your jeans or your stockings. It will destroy your stockings if you're wearing nice nylon stockings. So it's really complicated to find a good product that can be made with this material. But anyway, I don't have the brain to remember all the details of what we did, but we did a lot of spinning tests. We made a lot of different yarns. And exactly. And so we had a variety of yarns samples. We tried to do some woven samples, and there we realized that there's another problem. So you cannot really weave this wool on industrial machinery at the speed that it would normally go to, because it's way too irregular. So it gets all tangled up and it breaks all the time. And let's say it's a disaster. That's what you can say. So you have to spin it differently to be able to weave it. You have to filter it. You have to select it. A solution that we found that worked incredibly well was the robotic tufting. So there's a couple of worldwide companies that have started to do tufting machines that are on robotic arms, and they're incredibly efficient in producing tufted carpets in Europe. It's incredibly, it's much cheaper, obviously, than hand tufting them, and it's obviously much more environmentally friendly than doing it in Asian countries or wherever it's currently done. So this was a pretty good solution. Okay, thank you. Next slide, please. What we decided to do is that we've decided to make 3 prototypes. One was a curtain, so obviously textiles for interiors that do not get in contact with the human body. One is paired accessories. So these are made together with a company called Pijama. They're based in Milan, and they pair textiles with neoprene. And so it would, be able to make accessories so they're not directly in contact with the human body. And the one that we're launching at the end of this year, finally, is a robotically tufted carpet made out of this wool, which we have called circular wool. Thank you. Next slide, please. Oh, that's it. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I had more information. Maybe I didn't point out the challenges enough, but I think I put them inside the various points when I was speaking. So yeah.
Okay, thanks. I think there is new elements on that you shared that personally I didn't know about all this first phase, and it's super interesting to have your experience on that and to see what
I have, and I wanted to say all the details with the micron, but I still have this headache from my cold, and if I start saying numbers, I'm going to say them wrong, and I don't want to say them wrong. If you need the details of the micron and the nanos and all you need, I can send you per email. Okay, write to me, I'll send you per email.
Great, thanks, Tessa. Thanks a lot for sharing it, and you're a bit sick today. Margaret, do you have any positive news for your presentation, or we go to the next one?
Yeah, I'm back. Everything is fine here. Yeah, so I can present.
Okay, so you can go.
Yes, thank you. So I'm Margaret Katrín, and I'm from the Icelandic Textile Center, based in the textile lab here. So on the next slide, yeah, you can see that we are based in Blönduós, Iceland, which is in the north of Iceland. And we are collaborating with textile designers, scholars, entrepreneurs, and we are exploring a lot heritage versus new technologies. And kind of just looking into like new innovations in the textile industry here, looking into how we can develop it further, sustainability, and also a lot about like lengthening the lifetime of textiles. Yeah, so why wool? It's a local resource, and it has a lot of heritage and history here, and it has unique qualities also. Yeah. And the history of the Icelandic sheep is that it has been a part of the Icelandic history since the first settlement, or the first settlers came here, and it's really been keeping us warm and dry, and also used as isolator in houses. And for a long time it was used as a currency. So both there were woven these big textiles that were used as currency, but also just the raw wool was shipped out as well. And the wool was hand spun, so it was used as hats and mittens, just basically everything to keep you warm. But what is interesting is that it was knitted 3 times larger. So when you felted it, it shrunk. So it got also windproof. And this is kind of what is still done today. But the sheep today is considered the sheep wool today is considered a byproduct of the meat industry. And since 1980, the population or the numbers of sheep have almost dropped half. And it is because it is low price of sheep, both sheep products, the meat and the wool, especially because they don't get so much. It's hard to keep the prices high on it because the sheep wool is kind of put into two categories. So one is like the first quality is the white wool, so the clean white wool from when the sheep has come after the summer back to the farm. And that is like where they can spin and dye their yarn. But the other quality is the colored wool and the dirty wool that is hard to wash. And that's also most of the wool. But you can see on the pictures over there, so that this is what happens every fall, is that they take, so in the beginning of the summer, they take all of their sheep and they are kind of let roam free around Iceland. And then in the fall, they take all of their sheep from the mountains into these kinds of places where they gather all of the sheep from the region, and then they kind of, the farmers pick out the sheep that they own. So they like, yeah, they sort them again. And this is kind of something that happens every year, and it's very fun to take part in. And then you can see from the wool factory here, Eastex has a wool factory here in Blönduós also. So we are in close relationship with them. And they wash 99% of their wool here. But the other goes into mini mills. Yeah, so the wool kind of characterizes because it's dual coated, so you can pick it into two parts. It has the outer coat, tog, and the inner coat, þel. And the outer coat is very like rigid, very strong, and the inner is like very soft. It's like, I don't know, or something. But together, blended, they like do a very high quality wool that you can easily spin out of or felt. Yeah, and the next. So I just wanted to show you a bit about like the different wool colors, because there are a lot of wool colors here, but because people or farmers get mostly for like money for the white sheeps, all of the colors from the sheeps are kind of dying out. So it's a bit sad to see if that continues. So yeah. And I wanted to just show you a bit about different wool projects, because there's so much second-class wool happening, which is not good for spinning out of. So Eastex made wool duvets out of them and blankets, which is very nice. And then there's this Iceland Knit Festival that happens every year. And it happens here in Blönduós in June. And that's kind of where all knitters and wool lovers come together to explore new things in connection to this great materials. And then Ir Úrari, she is a knitting designer and artist. And she takes these old or unused sweaters and kind of puts them into these fun characters by using wool. Yeah, so it's very fun to watch what she does. And Uppspunni is also like this mini mill, so they do like a small quantity yarns, and it's kind of like more close relation to what the product is. And then Magna also is a Icelandic designer, knit designer, who works with the Icelandic wool as well. But yeah, thank you.
Thanks a lot for sharing. We're super happy that you could share without any sound. Just for information, we will share the presentation also afterwards. So if there is things you cannot see on the screen, we can you can see it after and have the reference. So it's 5. We have still 2 presentations that are coming. Just for the local labs who have to leave to start the session locally. We wish you a really nice workshop, and we will move on now with Sane Bisse, that will talk about the work of the Center for Circular Design and the UK and beyond context. Sane, are you with us?
Yes, thank you very much, Marion. Yeah, my name is Sana Visser, and I'm a PhD researcher and knowledge exchange research assistant at the Center for Circular Design. And yeah, me and Professor Becky Early have been working on the shemakes project, so I'm really excited to share that with you today. Next slide, please. So yeah, briefly, we're located at Chelsea College of Arts, the University of London, University of the Arts London. Yeah, we're a research centre, and yeah, we're basically the leading voice of academic design research and knowledge exchange, focusing on circular design, predominantly textile design. And for the shemakes, we're really interested in wool, but this has already started actually in 2019, and this is continuing further after shemakes. Today I'll be talking a little bit about our centre and what we do, which is slightly different to some of the other Fab Labs, why circular economy, different tools and frameworks we use within the centre, our work, our researchers work within CCD and beyond, and sort of the conclusion on what that leads to next. Next slide. So yeah, as I said, yeah, we're focused on using practice design research approaches to create multiple outputs to support circular economies and communities around the globe. So our team consists of researchers, PhD students, but also external industry and academic experts. Really, in a nutshell, what we do, predominantly research, including workshops and public events is very much part of what we do, prototyping new materials and tools, curating exhibitions, being part of advisory roles, and of course, much report writing. Yeah, won't go too much into detail there. Our work involves major research projects. Here's just a few to outline. Hereware projects, which is currently going, more focused on bio-based cellulosic fibers for textiles, Trash to Cash, and Mr. Future Fashion. Next slide. But also, yeah, we're also doing many larger industry knowledge exchange projects, which, yeah, again, I won't go too much into detail. At least you get a sort of a glimpse of what kind of work we do next. And then also our smaller knowledge exchange project, like the shemakes, looking at gender equity, which are smaller projects, but also very interesting and more explorative, also including the Curiosity project we did last year, looking at the post-consumer waste in textiles. And yeah, as a Centre for Circular Design, our work is all based on the frameworks of the circular economy. I won't go too much into detail what this framework and what this model is, as I think we've got quite a group in here that are already very much aware of what this is, to move towards a circular economy and away from the take, make and waste model. And design does come into play within this model. According to this phrase, is 80% is in the hands of the designer stage, and is responsible for this part in the process. So here you see an image of the TEDS 10, which is already something that we, as in the centre, started developing a while ago, looking into sustainable design, leading on to circular design. And these are just some examples of the circular design frameworks we use here, and the textile toolbox and circular design speeds, looking more into how you can think fast and think slow in terms of product longevity or material longevity. On the right, you see the service shirt by Becky Early, designing a shirt that can last 50 years, but also thinking much more shorter in terms of paper. Using paper for longer, for shorter lifetimes. So how does that relate to wool, since that's actually not been one of our major focuses within the centre, but actually looking at the existing frameworks we use, circular design frameworks, through materials models and mindsets. We started mapping these different ideas of what we've actually already looked at in different research projects, where we already looked at wool, but not really as a main or core material as for example, polyester or cellulosic fibers has been. So here I'm just going to highlight in the next few minutes some of our projects where we worked on, whether that's looking more at materials, so mechanical and chemical recycling, or more looking at models, so post-consumer waste, or looking more at the mindset, so the user phase, the laundry, the repair. Next. So the first one is actually our most recently graduated PhD student, Catherine Ho, where she looks at mechanical recycling in wool, and how the difficulties within wool blends with, for example, acrylics, what that means for the recycling system. Yeah, these slides will be available, so I'm not going to go into too much detail what's all been said here. Next. And again, more mechanical recycling, looking at a design for disassembly by Letitia Forst, also one of our postdocs. Again, not predominantly her main material, but more looking at the different layering systems and what that means in terms of recycling and future disassembly. Yeah. And here a very different project, which is my own research, looking at human hair and how that actually relates to wool, also looking at chemical recycling and how that how those two materials are very similar, but also both underexplored, undervalued materials, and how we can learn from different systems and models. An older example, but not any less important, a project by Professor Becky Early, the No Wash Top, which is more looking into different ways of reducing the footprint by using materials that need to be washed less, or removing different parts of the material. An example by Emmeline Childs, which is more looking at the post-consumer textile waste, using wool from Salvation Army, by working together with this organization and actually looking at post-consumer waste and how to create new designs. More of the repair side of wool is Bridget Harvey, where she often in her work she looks at the repair models and what that could mean for different types of materials, including wool. So yeah, what does that mean in terms of monomateriality? What are the essences of wool? Where does it come from and how? Kate Goldsworthy, she also looked at different techniques she actually used laser finishing on shoddy felt using polyester non-woven material on top of traditional recycled wool and mixed fiber materials. So a different technique of actually working with the material. And then a few examples of our students at University of the Arts London, most recently Justine Lead, who did a master's at a textile design at Chelsea, was very much focused on the different breeds in the UK and how we can actually map that and understand what these breeds are and what qualities they have, since there's 120 types of different breeds in the UK. Next. from 2019, Fiona Daly, who worked was also very much focused and inspired by the different breeds in the UK, was also very much interested in the fibre shed local circular models and chains and how that works within a circular design perspective. And Sumya Singh, she is a textile designer and artist who has worked with local communities in India and actually wanted to understand how it can also empower different communities and working with a particular sheep breed in that area as well. On this slide you won't see it, but she's now also working with, she's also done some research in the UK and trying to understand how it can be useful to create bioplastics as well. And then this is an unpublished report that was made in 2019, and that's still ongoing by Rebecca Early and Fiona Daly to start understanding what we can do with this wool, which started in the looking at the Laxa wool in Bilbao, and actually to understand that local context, we also had to understand our UK context. So this is really where it started, and our sort of our aim and passion to continue looking in this area of research in wool. So yeah, I won't go too much into the sort of UK context of wool, as this is just the start of our research really, and we're hoping to sort of more disseminate it over the next few months by getting more and other people involved from different stakeholders, whether they're designers or industry partners. But it's mainly in the UK that there's many different breeds and there's still a declining industry, but there's actually a lot more coming in terms of different product designers industry, but also research. And I'm just highlighting here a few where we started mapping different different outcomes, whether they're looking into textiles or insulation or actually more research networks. So one highlighted case study, which is also part of the BFTT project in the centre, is Dopper House, where they've used cloud wool, which is a natural innovation made using 100% local wool that would normally go to waste. So it's really worth looking on their website as well to see what kind of process and products they make. And the next case study is by Zoe Fletcher, and she did a 4-year PhD looking at also British breeds and how she could actually sort of give a guide to other designers working with this material. And then here's just a few organisations in the UK, and more recently, last week, the Innovate UK launched the Circular Economy Innovation Network, which is really worth looking at, where they're focusing on 3 different materials, one including wool. And also recently the Why Wool Matters campaign was launched. So it really shows that there's a real drive for new innovation in the UK, which is really exciting. And for us, it basically means it's questioning us, like who do we need to bring together to really start understanding what's already happening and who is still needed within this field. So what is the role of design research within creating a circular wool industry for the UK, and who's within circular wool design research team? Which stakeholders do we work with? Who is missing? And that leads me to the final few things that I wanted to flag is we will be holding a Circular Wool UK Symposium on the 15th of June, where we'll be inviting different speakers in the UK that are working with wool. We will be holding a Circular Design Stakeholders Workshop in Bilbao on the 30th of June, which will be also available online. And keep in mind this World Circular Textiles Day, where we're also itemizing one wool section. So we're looking forward to that. And that was our presentation. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Annie. And yes, so many cases. And I think it's really nice also to see that we have many initiatives from all the steps, no, the process, and you illustrate a lot also what could be, how design can help to rethink also the end of life and how we can reuse, recycle. It's super interesting, and we will have the time to go to explore some initiative that you have been working. I'm just now trying to show a video from the European Wool Exchange Foundation. They cannot be present today, but they record a nice presentation. We were we were present at the European Wool Day that were organized by the European Wool Exchange, and we had a really, really nice exchange there, and we recommend you to look at all the event which is online. So let's try to listen to Dora.
Hello everyone,
Yeah.
I'm Dora.
Let me know if it's working. Maybe the sound is
Thank
low.
you very much for inviting us to this Wool Monday. I'd like to give you a brief overview of the European Wool Exchange Foundation. The aim of the EU Foundation is to promote a higher utilization of wool in Europe. We are aiming at a better coordination of the many associations and groups that are interested in the circular economy of wool and its return to our society as a precious resource for many uses, rather than as a neglected organic waste material. In the English language, the word "you," spelled as E-W-E, and pronounced the same way as the "you" pronoun, is the name of the female sheep, the mother of the lamb. And "you" is also the acronym for our organization, European Wool Exchange. There is at least 150,000 tons wool available each year in Europe. Sadly, a lot of the wool is buried and burned at present. We would like to change that and make better use of it. One of our programs is the Wool Laboratory in Cyprus. There are 350,000 sheep producing the milk for the famous halloumi cheese in Cyprus, and they grow at least 500 tons of wool each year. Most of this wool is not used at all at present, as sheep farming is focused on milk production. We would like to introduce the sorting and grading of the wool. We are planning to make wool yarn from it, from the higher quality wool, which can be then used in the local children's hospital. We are planning to provide craft bags for the parents caring for children with cancer. We organize European Wool Days. We had our first one in 2021, and we just had our second European Wool Day on the 9th of April 2022. This is a day to celebrate wool, and we provide a platform for the different stakeholders of the wool sector to make themselves visible and to hear and learn from one another. We had more than 1,000 viewers on the day, and we had almost 130,000 impressions on Facebook in the months coming up to the event. So we say it was a very successful event. The whole event of the second European Wool Day is available on our YouTube channel. The main topic of this year was wool for health, well-being and social cohesion. We also had presentations for wool in education, wool exhibitions and museums. There was wool-related research, and we had a section for wool in fashion and art. And we also had workshops taking place as part of this event. From the more than 5 hours of presentation, I'd like to draw your attention to the video from the Faroe Island, which is available in almost every language on our YouTube channel. The video of the Wool Island introduces the importance that knitting and wool has played in the life of the people living on this island. 5 knitting designers tell their story of how they bridge tradition with contemporary design. It's very interesting how they use the old patterns to make them fashionable in modern everyday life. We have a wool map where we marked all the contributors of the first European Wool Day. We will add this year's presenters too, and we have plans to develop even further. to make it a European wool map where we are mapping the wool sector in Europe. We will see how far we get, but we are planning to make it also a wool application or an event calendar. Twiddle muffs are sensory therapy tools designed to help elevate certain symptoms of dementia. Benefits of Twiddle muff include providing visual, tactile and sensory stimulation, keeping the hands warm and also providing comfort and having a calming effect. The main objective of the European Twiddle Muff Awards 2022 is to promote the benefits of Twiddle muffs for patients with Alzheimer's disease and other dementias. We would like to also encourage their use on a European level, as there are countries where it's virtually unknown. Via the awards, we also wish to inspire creativity in their creation, but also provide ideas for people who are interested in making them. Twiddle muffs received for the awards will be distributed to institutions caring for patients with dementia. This is a competition open to all. In the main category, we are choosing the 5 best Twiddle muffs, and there are additional categories. There is one made by a man special award, most active country determined by pro rata population. There is the Public Choice Award. The online voting is taking place in August 2022. And there is the softest with 100% wool. Watch out at our Facebook page and web page, or you can contact us at awards@eu.network. Thank you for this opportunity to let you know what we do at the EU Foundation.
Yes, so we come to an end to the presentation. I think what we can say, just to finish and to conclude on that part, is that we have seen many contexts, different practice, and shemakes use really give us the opportunity to show those things and to make those labs work together. And we are really happy that we can go a step next with all the events and the next step of the project. I think what something could be a success also of initiative is that we can try to connect our lab with the current initiative on wool, and to see how we can fit the existing knowledge and pursue a bit the investigation together. So here you have a different initiative that was also mentioned by the European Wool Foundation, and partly for this with Sane from the Center for Circular Design. Maybe just emphasizing a new initiative that is going on with Wool for Ukraine. So it's a call to bring the knitting expertise and to gather different type of wool and to wool together for the people who are struggling with the war in Ukraine, and also not just for producing item and product, but just for the sake of knitting and of our having a way to play and to have a positive mindset in those contexts, something that was highlighted by the European Wool Foundation with this contest is really the importance of knitting as a therapeutic process. And I think it's nice also to remind that it's also why we like promoting wool now. It's because by doing, we like doing, and we have some really great feeling around that. So yeah, I think we need a small break. Anastasia, I will let you now explain just the next step so we can do the group. And
thank you. Yeah.
Go.
Thank you, everyone, for sharing the stories of the different contexts, and thank you for all the comments that we received. Very nice and welcoming comments from everyone in the chat. Now it's time to be also receiving your interest and to listen to your stories, and also see if we can work collaboratively in mapping local ecosystems, in pointing out initiatives, in creating synergies and seeing how we can work together. And shemakes is opening this research to everyone. Of course, all the events that we are holding in various transfer labs, they are open and free to the public. So maybe it's worth, if you are close to any of the labs that they are hosting workshops in the next Wool Mondays, that you also can join. Sorry, there is some noise here. And the next part is that I would like to show you what we have been working on for the mapping and researching on local wool ecosystems, is that we have been creating this interactive map. I will share 1 second my screen. So we have been mapping different initiatives. You can see in the different areas where we have labs, and we have added raw material suppliers, farmers and associations as one group. So this is the sheep icon. Manufacturers like spinning, weaving, knitting, so you can see the little factory icon. Designers, studio, labs and makers, so you can see this icon with the needles and the wool yarn. Shops, haberdashery and distributors with little shop icon. Culture and education centers like museums and schools, like weaving schools, or wool and textile history museums. And then wool waste management and end-of-life stakeholders and recycling centers. So these are the different types of stakeholders that we have been mapping. And if any one of you also wants to contribute, you can, now that we will move and jump on the Miro board, you can let us your email and we can make you contributors to this map. This map is accessible to everyone, and it is also a good way to see and to motivate new young people or other entrepreneurs that they want to start working with wool. So it is a resource for everyone. And now what we are going to do is that we are going to have a small bio break so that we can stretch, grab a coffee or tea, or yeah, you know, go to the toilet, yeah, move a little bit, and then afterwards we will make some breakout rooms. And we will split into groups so that we can go online on the Miro board, and we can share, and you can share your interest into wool. You can share different projects that you know or that you have worked on, and that's all. So let's do the bio break. And yes, the map is on the website, but I also like now in the breakout room, we will talk more about it. And let's have 5 to 6 minutes bio break and then come back.